Today's video is called What You Packin'. This is going to be an interesting theme because we don't see a lot of coverage in the travel sphere talking about your actual luggage. We see a lot of videos talk about packing and all that stuff, but not really the nitty-gritty of what happens to your suitcases when you check it in either at the airport or at a cruise ship terminal. So I come to you with about 30 years experience in the business. Started at the age of 18 in Decatur, Illinois for United Express, where we checked people in, we did security, we had to load the plane, do bag claims, help find missing bags, and so forth. That then propelled my career, where I became a trainer, supervisor, eventually head of training, and then even an airline executive. So I've seen everything, including the airport setup, the legalese side of it, the tracking side. So hopefully you find this video a little bit informative. What's important to think about is after you've laid everything out, and you should do that before, you need to see exactly how much space you need in terms of whether it's a suitcase or a duffel bag. You should lay out all your stuff just to kind of have an idea of what space you need. And the next step with that is to look at the airlines you're flying with, or any trains or buses, to see if they have any size restrictions. Now, IATA, the International Air Transport Association, does set some standards, which they sadly vary a little bit. Some airlines have adopted a 62 linear inch, which is the length, the width, and then the height of the bag. So you have to measure all three sides. Some airlines allow 65 inches, and there's also the weight component you need to think about. Some airlines only allow 20 kilos, some allow 23, some even allow 30. In terms of pounds, 40, 50, and 70. And you also need to think about the weight of your bag at the same time, because when you look at all your clothes and everything you're packing, some of that's pretty heavy and you may need to shuffle stuff around. So you always need to take into consideration the size and the weight, whether you're going to go buy something or use something you've already got. Another thing to think about is before you book your flights, check your credit cards. See if any give you perks, or if there's an airline affinity card such as Delta, Alaska, United, American, they'll sometimes give you a free bag. And if you have elite status, sometimes they'll even give you a couple more pounds. So you need to pay attention to that when you do travel. Now, once you have everything laid out, you need to see what you have in terms of suitcases and bags, and can it hold up for the journey. If you're going to be doing multiple flights, multiple transfers, you're going to need something really sturdy, or something that can handle being smashed, especially at the airports and in the taxis and the cars. And if you're going to buy something new, this video is definitely for you, because you just shouldn't go on Amazon and buy the first thing. So now, in terms of the journey of the bag, it's going to go between car, airport, conveyor belt, bag cart, airplane pit, humans, the bag smashers. That's going to go to more carts. It might be left out in the weather. More people are going to be touching it. Some airlines use covered carts, some have open carts, and that's just something you need to keep in the back of your mind, because not all suitcases and backpacks and duffels are water resistant or waterproof. So you need to think about that when you pack as well. What I do recommend is, if you start doing your research, it's okay to go online and look. Start looking at the reviews, seeing what kind of fits your budget, but go to a store. In my case, I went to Macy's, JCPenney, and a couple places to kind of look around, because I normally travel with a backpack. But the fact that on the Crown Princess, I'm on this thing for 2 months, I had to pack quite a bit. But I knew that I needed a 29-inch suitcase. And I'd already checked everything, and that would have been, it worked for every leg of my journey. So in terms of your suitcases, what you need to do is, when you take a look at it, you need to inspect it, make sure it's going to work. So whether you're getting a backpack, duffel bag, or wheeled suitcase, or wheeled bag, you need to really check out the construction, make sure it's sturdy. You need to look at the zippers. Are they the big, thick YKK, or are they the cheap little ones you get, that look like they're from, some third world country. You also want to look at the construction on the inside, where you take apart the lining, and look at the curves. When it comes to a backpack, like what I have with my Bora 80, I try a low profile backpack, which has cinch straps shown here, which allows me to compress it. Same thing for the bottom. This is normally a sleeping bag compartment, but I fill it with clothes. I also have a very expandable top under the lid. So this way, if I go shopping and buy a little bit too much stuff, this expands upward, which is nice. And again, another cinch strap to kind of pull the load in. Now with this one, there aren't too many pockets to get caught on things, and I love that fact. But this backpack has served me well, both backpacking and also traveling. Uh, and then to talk about backpacks more, for a checked bag, you normally want to look at like an 80 to 100 liter backpack. So this one is 80, expandable to about 100 if you need to go that big. Now for my carry-on, I use my Kelty Red Wing, which is about a 50 liter backpack. What I like about this one is, even though it doesn't quite have a little profile, I've got organizational pockets for everything. So on this side, I will put like one of my water bottles. My front pocket, I will have my electronics, my headphones and everything. This front pocket is where I put my money and my passport. Side pockets overflow. And then inside, what I love about this backpack is it has a metal frame. So even if I were to check this bag, it's not going to get damaged. But instead of using this for your water bladder for hiking, this is where I put my laptop, my tablet, and everything else. And then from here, I just expand out. Now this is about a 50 liter backpack, and it's about the max you can do as a carry-on in terms of the airlines. I've never been told I got to check it, and I carry this with my 21-inch upright, which gives you a lot of room. So instead of using my green JanSport Day Pack, which is maybe 20 liters, I use this, which is about 50. So it gave me a lot more space. It's comfortable. It was easy to walk through the airports. And as mentioned, with my Arc'teryx Bora 80, I also have compression straps, which helps pull that load in and compress it and make it smaller if I needed to go smaller, and even sometimes bigger. So that's at least how I've always traveled. Now when it came to my suitcase, I went to Nordstrom Rack just to kind of see what's out there, because I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a suitcase. And what I found was the durability of the bag just wasn't there. The Travel Pro bag that I saw, and I've got some pictures that I'll be showing in this video, you know, it looked the same. The wheels I noticed were only single bogey. They weren't the same quality of wheel that I saw on the one at Macy's and JCPenney and also online. The construction wasn't quite there. It didn't have much of a frame on the inside. So again, when you look at for the suitcases, and now I'll show pictures of the one I bought, which is the, I forgot the exact brand of Travel Pro, but it was about $65 more. And it has a fortified bottom. You know, you can take apart, you can unzip the liner and, you know, take a look at the construction, but it just had a lot more fortification. It had stronger materials, it had stronger zippers. And so for me, it just made sense to buy that bag. Now, luckily, when you look at suitcases, they come in 3 different sizes when it comes to checked bags. You have 25, 27, and 29 inch. This is important because it goes back to that size limit for the airlines, because it's either going to be 62 inches or 65 inches. And some airlines will measure, and they might charge you a little bit more money. And that also includes the wheels. So if the wheels stick out, that is part of the size, especially with carry-on. So you need to consider that one. So I did end up with a 29-inch upright. It held up pretty well. I'm glad it did. I went with black because, you know, these are going to get destroyed at the airport. These, a lot of the airport sortation systems use ping pong type paddles to push bags around from one belt to another. You know, it's not a human looking at every bag and pushing it onto a different cart. Most airports are 100% automated from the time that the TSA is done screening the bag. It goes on to a baggage sortation system, and the paddles aren't gentle at all. And so they will push these things and bang them up. It'll cause scratches. It breaks the wheels sometimes. So again, this goes back to making sure you have something that's durable. And in terms of weight, if you are going to go overweight, make sure you don't have too many valuables in that bag, because as an ex-airline employee working at the airport, most of the bag claims we got were for overweight bags. And that's just because they get handled differently. So even though the airlines charge you, you know, anywhere from $50 to $150 for that overweight bag, and I know most people complain about it, it's actually because we get more claims for that. More people get injured from handling those heavy bags from a bag belt to a bag cart or putting them in the bin. So it does cost the airline more money when your bag is overweight. And these bags do get hurt more. So that's something to think about is, you know, if you are going to have a bag that is overweight and you're going to go overweight, sometimes, you know, just make sure that, you know, whatever you have in there isn't too valuable. You know, you don't want to have like a lot of electronics, especially in your checked bag. Airlines won't cover that. If you have liquor and duty free, make sure it's padded. Go to Total Wine, for example, and get like a sleeve you can put it in, or bubble wrap, wrap shirts around it. Even when I travel with, I brought barbecue sauce with me on a Crown Princess. I kid you not, I'm gone for 2 months and I knew Princess doesn't have barbecue sauce. But I even went to Publix and picked up some barbecue sauce, and I even wrapped that in the Publix bag to make sure it's airtight in case the seal broke. It doesn't explode all over my clothes. So again, with the heavier bags, they do get damaged more. You need to take that into account. And then if you're going to be looking at a duffel bag, check the size and the collapsibility. Same thing with my backpacks. Check for cinch straps so that you can compress it. Does it have wheels? Are the wheels built into it? Do they stick out? Because a lot of these wheel duffel bags do look good. And I did see a couple where they even come with, like on Amazon. I couldn't find one in Plantation or Fort Lauderdale where I started my trip. But they even came with packing cubes, which I thought was fantastic. So again, when you pack for your trip, you need to think about the journey of your bag. Is it going to last? Whether it's a long cruise, long flight, multiple airports, multiple taxis, you really need to take that into account. And I highly avoid using these accordion style bags. They look really cool, but the fact is these zippers run all the way around the bag, and that's the only thing holding it together. Unless you're going to use a strap to put around it to compress it to give that bag more strength, those zippers will break, and you will be crying at bag claim when you get there and you see your suitcase completely open and all your stuff everywhere. Again, 30 years in the business, these accordion style bags are bad. I don't care what brand you have. Do not get them. They are not good. And the hard shell cases have evolved dramatically from the 90s when they were built really strong, really tough, to the point that it's now just flimsy plastic. Same thing with my suitcase. You want to look at the construction and go, is this really strong? Can this handle getting beat up? And is it going to break? Some of these soft shell suitcases do get destroyed, and when they get destroyed, your trip's over, essentially. So you need to consider that if you do have one. And I'm not saying all accordion bags are bad, but most people tend to overpack, especially once you get into the bigger suitcase realm like I did with my 29-inch, which could also be considered 31. You're good chance you're going to overpack that sucker. And the heavier it is, the more likely it's going to break. So again, try to avoid those if you can. And then when you do pack, if you're near a Publix, for example, what I love about Publix is you can actually go and weigh your bags, so that way you kind of know where you're at. I did that with mine. I packed one suitcase, took it to Publix and weighed it, found out I was 3 pounds over. I'm like, okay, I can live with that. I can move a couple things around. Went home, packed the backpack, took it to Publix, found out I was at 35 pounds, and I was a really happy camper. And my problem was getting here to New Zealand for this cruise was I had to do 3 flights, which I know sounds weird, but I had to fly Southwest to Buffalo. So Southwest allowed me 2 bags at 50 pounds each. I then flew from Buffalo to New York JFK on JetBlue, which I had the same limit, 2 bags at 50 pounds. But then at JFK, when I flew Qantas, because I was booked in business class, I had 2 bags at 70 pounds. So JetBlue and Southwest don't care that I have that Qantas flight, and neither will American or Delta or whoever. So when you're connecting airlines, you have to go at the lowest common denominator when it comes to bag size. Otherwise, they're not going to care. Now, you might get a sympathetic agent, but don't be shocked if they at least try to charge you for an overweight or oversized fee. And theirs are getting really expensive. A lot of times, if you have like an American Airlines credit card, if you book through partner with Coach with Alaska, for example, or Qantas or British Airways, sometimes you might get some leniency with your baggage allowance, or if you're elite with the airlines, it might allow you to have, instead of 50 pounds, 70 pounds. You really need to research that. And then when you do your packing, you also need to take the weight of everything into consideration. So again, there are ways to go on vacation and have a good time. Sometimes grandma's suitcase might work, and sometimes it just may fall apart. So hopefully you guys found my video interesting. Again, I'm coming at you from a different angle because not a lot of vloggers out there have worked in the airline business like I have, and I just want you guys to have a good time. But like in my case, I did have to repack once I got to New York. I was able to shift some stuff around because I put everything in my carry-on. So that gray Kelty backpack is probably about 40 pounds on both my Southwest and JetBlue flight, and luckily the gate never asked to weigh the bag. If they did, I would have been in trouble. So I reduced my weight from my carry-on, put them in my check bags to get them closer to 70, and everything made it fine. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment, like, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.